Catch up!
Excuse me.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Untitled Marvel Project, the show where we break down everything Marvel has ever created or will create. Today,
Holy shit.
we are talking about the much anticipated, everyone's talking about how much they are ready to see Venom Let There Be Carnage. Tucker's excited, I'm excited, I'm your host Tanner Dykstra, I didn't say that up top. He's Tucker Hazel, I completely forgot our names because the star of this video is Venom.
It's him.
Just like the star of the movie. Tucker, we just saw Venom Let There Be Carnage, and it blew our socks off, did it not?
It did not.
No, my socks are directly on my feet.
Regardless of the sock percentage on our feet, we are excited to talk about this movie for a couple reasons. But we're also excited to talk to you about this movie, whether you liked it or not, in our Discord, which link is in the description. And you can subscribe to us. We're going to do some more coverage on this movie as well. The first thing to let you guys know, if you're clicking on this video expecting any discussion of what happens post the end of this movie, you're not going to get that here. We're doing a Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credits discussion and just bullshittery very soon. Card is in the corner for that. But we're just going to be talking about the 92-minute feature film directed by Andy Serkis that is Venom Let There Be Carnage.
We encourage you to go over and check out that post-credit or mid-credit scene video. We'll be doing lots of multiversal, what's going on with Sony and Marvel discussion. But right here, right now, is Venom Let There Be Carnage time. So Tucker, without further ado, let's get into it. Tucker, what did you think of Venom Let There Be Carnage?
Venom Let There Be Carnage fits in a very interesting space in superhero film history. Superhero films are so prevalent today. They are so common. They dominate the box office. But that didn't start. No, the MCU didn't start that. There was an era before the MCU that was just people putting superhero properties onto film with live action actors. They didn't care too much about continuity. They didn't care too much about having things set up or having Easter eggs actually be coherent or references or plot lines, making a lot of sense. And there's a bunch of those movies. And this sort of harkens back to those. This is the first superhero movie in a long time, for Marvel especially, that I can think of that doesn't really matter. This movie is kind of just nothing. It's kind of just 90 minutes of low tier superhero bullshit, and I don't care.
Yeah, and Tucker, is the movie good? No. Is it bad? Largely, yes.
Yes, most.
Is it fun? Not for most of it.
But there are glimmers of hope.
There are glimmers. I think I said at some point on our drive home after seeing it, this is just a 92-minute vehicle for the post-credit scene, which again we're talking about not in this video. That card's in the corner, or it's in the description. It's on our channel. It's on all sort of things. But Venom Let There Be Carnage is a bad movie, if you can believe it. Lots of people were predicting that it was going to be a bad movie, and it is. It just really went in one ear and out the other for me. I'm trying to recall moments that I liked or notably disliked, and I'm like, wow, what just a low hum of a film.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's because this movie doesn't really know what it needs to do. It is a sequence of scenes leading to an action fight.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of moving pictures.
Yes, there are characters that quarrel occasionally in it, but it is really just a mishmash of things, of sequences. It doesn't feel particularly coherent. It is very, very quickly paced. This is a very short movie, and I believe it or not, I am saying this. I think it could have stood to be longer. I don't think it would have been hurt by an extra 15-20 minutes of runtime that give you some more connective tissue, because that is what on the whole this movie is lacking. Just things to connect these bombastic action sequences, which are not that good, and comedy sequences, which are okay together.
Yeah. If we want to talk about specifics, what do you think about Tom Hardy? Producer and writer for the film, Tom Hardy. And star, of course. Who could forget? He's still doing that really weird Eddie Brock voice. Tucker, have you ever seen a video of Tom Hardy talking? He does not. In his normal voice. He does not sound like that
No,
at
of
all.
course he doesn't. Yeah,
He's a very deeply voiced British man, and in
yeah,
the movie he's talking like, "Hey, I'm Eddie Brock.
yeah,
What's going on here?
yeah. I'm a reporter. The classic line.
I'm a reporter."
Yeah, but I think he's fine. I think he actually shines in some of the moments where he's putting out a lot of emotion. You're not emotionally invested in the character, but Tom Hardy is a competent actor, and he
hmm
is. I feel like he kind of enjoys doing this in some sort of sadistic way. So like
Yeah,
when he's yelling at nothing and getting really into it and just hammering it up and doing all sorts of slapstick stuff for the humor and sometimes landing jokes that actually work,
yeah.
he's fun in the role, and I think he's probably my favorite part. Weirdly enough, this movie does diverge from him in quite a few places. There's a lot of Cletus Cassidy in this movie. This is a very split down the middle in terms of hero and villain than
hmm
we usually get out of our superhero films. And that means that there's not as much Tom Hardy as honestly I would have wanted.
No, but speaking of Cletus Cassidy, there is a
Fair
lot of
point.
him in this movie. For when they were they actually trying to redeem him? Because they kill him at the end of this movie. Carnage is
Yeah.
dead. Like
Yes.
Carnage, one of the most iconic Spider-Man villains, maybe right below Venom, is
Mm-hmm.
dead. They kill him, and Woody Harrelson is not that good. His hamming it up is less entertaining than Tom
Yeah.
Hardy's is.
He has his fun moments, and I think the idea of having a psychopath, a serial killer, as a Marvel villain, even though you don't feel the weight of him being a killer, like there are families to the people that he killed, and he's going on death row and whatever.
hmm
But it's all fine in concept. I think he has a weird interplay with Eddie Brock that works and doesn't. It ebbs and flows, but he's such a strange character because I think Woody Harrelson is fun occasionally, but
hmm
he just feels out of place.
Oh
And
yeah.
and almost all of the sequences of him play that same note of he's crazy and he's got a very focused goal is to get back to the character that will become his wife.
hmm
Uh and that's about it. Like he doesn't have any nuance.
Yep.
There is a backstory that is told in bits and chunks throughout the
That
film. That
animation
is
sequence was cool, by the way.
there's an animated sequence of his backstory that was surprisingly interesting visually,
Yeah.
but it's he's an enigma to me, man, because there's elements that are like interesting and unique of him as a villain, the amount of screen time that he gets, the fact that he is a serial killer, the fact that
hmm
he has that interplay with Eddie Brock, but then he also just feels like one note, and I really don't know where I stand on him, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Speaking of the serial killing, this is an issue that I and a lot of people had with the first Venom as well.
Mm,
That it's in your face PG-13.
yes, it
Like
is.
this movie has multiple heads being bitten off, and it stars a serial killer or as a character.
Mm,
Woody Harrelson is not a serial killer, unlike his father. If you look into it, give that a quick
true.
Google.
Look
His
at that.
dad, yeah. Look into Woody Harrelson's dad when you have the time. Um,
Oh, Jeffrey Harrelson.
yeah, sure.
I don't know his name.
But yeah, it's bloodless. It's boring in that sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't get over the goo fight issues that the first one had.
Yes. That
Um,
I think is why he ends up feeling one note to me is because he's sitting in a cage for the first half of the movie, to be
yeah,
honest. And he's hamming it up and he's got these weird poetic lines and stuff. And he's like, okay. But when is he gonna become Carnage? And then he becomes Carnage, and he's basically just Carnage for the rest of the movie.
yeah,
And it is weird because I do think that I like the design for Carnage. I guess I think his face is cool,
yeah,
but Carnage as a character is really underplayed in terms of speaking and having motivation
yeah.
and having a relationship with Cletus Cassidy. So
He calls Venom his dad a lot of
a
times,
lot
and
of
that
times, yeah,
that only in the latter half though. Like in the last third of the movie, you're like, oh,
yeah,
so this is what they're going for. He wants to kill Venom because he's his dad. Sure, yeah.
yeah.
Let's do it. Let's go for it. Yeah.
But all of that is stuck under the fact that we're just getting CGI blobs, and
Yep.
they're not like there's no like impact when they fight. They're just doing all this crazy shit, and there's tentacles going everywhere, and it just becomes nothing in my brain. It's just
Yeah.
it's just buzz.
It
And
is.
I'm like,
It is just buzz.
I'm watching creatures fight.
They could have been
Yeah,
static on the screen for a lot of this movie, and I probably would have had the same sort of opinion of it. It's just like, yeah, this is happening. Uh-huh. Oh, colors. Ooh, lines. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, there is like a flippant disregard for any like s- s- common sense or like consistency in this film. I
Mhm.
feel, because things just like I said to you, things just happen,
Yeah.
and people say that about a lot of movies, but this one in particular stuck out to me as
Yes.
like there's a character who has superpowers. We never get her backstory explained. She just exists in the movie. Her motivation changes on a dime. By the way, remember when she goes to kill the? We'll get to the cop in a second. That's a really weird thing.
Mhm.
But she kills the cop in the cathedral in the final battle at the end,
No.
or she doesn't kill him. And then Carnage comes out and he's holding Venom, and she's like, "Hey, that's enough. You gotta stop killing people now." Like, where did this come from? Your guys' whole thing was that we're going to kill like 3 people at your weird serial killer wedding.
Yes.
Where did this come from? She gets murdered. They use sound. They use her screeching ability. She shriek in the film. Her name is Frances something.
Buh, 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 buh.
Some with a B. They use
Harrison.
Thank you. They use the sound of her scream to sort of like end Carnage, like to use it like as a killing blow, and then Venom lives and some things. And listen,
Yeah.
I'm going off the rails here. It's hard to like recount and in detail what happened in this film.
No, and I think that's really just where I come down on it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is kind of the most nothing superhero film I've watched in a long time. It's bad.
Hmm.
It's poorly paced. It's poorly written. The actors are just not given anything to work with. I think other than Tom Hardy, who I like in places, and you're really just scrounging for those moments of Venom, of Eddie slapstick humor. Their
Yeah.
interplay is actually, I think, the strongest part of this movie.
Yeah.
They have a surprisingly fun, like, begrudging friendship with that they've bonded, and they're trying to coexist, and they're constantly apologizing to one another, but then they are always at each other's throats. And I thought that was actually pretty fun when
Yeah.
when they're living as an apartment and stuff. I think that's the highlights of the movie.
Yep. I mean, the funniest part of the whole movie is when they're doing that really weird effects sketch thing where they just obviously had Tom Hardy like move his hand over a piece of paper and they sped it up really fast and added some
Yes.
motion blur. But that whole bit where he's like, "Oh, I know this one. That's a tree," and then Tom
Yes.
Hardy's doing it in his stupid fucking Eddie Brock voice. But also, it also doesn't work a lot of times for me because Venom's whole comedic crux is that he'll end the scene with "fuck that guy" or "I like this person." That
Yeah.
happens 6 to 8 times, and they play it for a laugh every
Mhm.
single time,
Yeah.
and it gets old if you can believe it.
Yeah. I mean, this movie finds a lot of ways to get old in its short runtime.
Yeah,
And while I think it's largely inoffensive, this isn't a ludicrously terrible movie. Uh, it's just so bland, and it
yeah.
harkens back to an age where I feel very clearly that the producers don't care about the source material. They don't care about consistency. They don't care about continuity. And
They care
and
about raking in that money from putting a superhero character on screen.
that's exactly what this feels like. Is,
Yeah.
hey, we're contractually obligated to make a sequel to this. Let's make it 90 minutes. Let's put it out there. It's gonna essentially change nothing for like the state of the universe. The status quo is barely affected by
Yeah.
the course of this film, uh, and that'll be it. People will pay for it, and we'll get some money.
Yep.
Congrats.
And so obviously you have the big tease at the end of this movie,
Mhm.
which is that our friend Patterson, the cop that we saw throughout
Mulligan.
the film.
Detective Mulligan.
Oh, it's P. Mulligan. I
Yes.
don't know why I said that. I messed up my joke. Because I was doing the bait and switch for the mid credits thing that we talk about not in this video, in our other video.
Yes.
But Patterson is a villain
He's got some sort of ability. It's unclear. And that's not a
because
character I've ever heard of before.
no, because he gets almost killed by Shriek, and he gets his like a chain wrapped around his neck, and he's left for dead. And then he has blue eyes at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't get like carnaged. Like he doesn't get any carnage in him or any venom in him that we see.
Yeah.
So what is
Well,
that?
He's Toxin.
Of course he
another
is.
symbiote character.
Of course he is.
But that's clearly the shtick of this universe that they've created,
Yeah.
that Sony has in the Venom verse, is that just whatever character you want, there's gonna be a symbiote for him.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. There'll be another big goo thing for him to fight next time.
He'll be his character design will probably be less interesting than whatever it was in the comics. Well,
Yeah.
we'll tone down the colors and make it a goo fight at the end, and you'll pay $9 to see it.
Yep.
And we
And
did. They got
we
us.
did.
They fooled us.
Yep.
Tucker, do you have any last thoughts on Venom? Let there be carnage. He says "Let there be carnage" in the movie, by the way.
He does.
That Carnage says "Let there be carnage," and
Yes.
it's just as stupid as anything else in the film.
No, I don't have anything else to say. I don't recommend this movie.
No.
If you are diehard superhero cinephiles like we are, go see it. Your brain won't be hurt that much. You'll be like, yes, this is exactly what I expected.
Mm-hmm. Find the cheapest possible setting to see this film. If you can pay some guy 50 cents to project it under an underpass, go
Yes.
for it. You know?
You won't lose any of the magic. This does
No.
not benefit from that big screen experience.
Nope. But thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to go watch our Venom Let There Be Carnage mid-crease discussion thing. That card will be in the corner, maybe again. I don't know how the card's in the corner.
You can't put a card in the same video again.
It's on our channel. Maybe the link's in the description. Along with that Discord, hit that subscribe button while you're down there, because we'll be bringing you more hot, cool, and fast movie reviews just like this one. We're going through all the MCU movies right now, one by one, and ranking and reviewing them with our good friend Abram, who's also on that. So if you want to pay attention to that, any video game stuff, any other movie stuff, subscribe to Backlog Banter, and we will see you next time.